Darklight Energetics channel is a project to explore the vast variety of topics about spirituality, psychology, and social topics as well. If you wish to support this effort, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon or make a one-time contribution through PayPal. Your support will help us improve the quality, length, and number of topics covered in our videos. Do check out the links in the description below. And to become our channel sponsors, email us at info.darklightenergetics@gmail.com. Do like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much and enjoy the video.
Yes,
Okay, so are we ready for our next question?
always ready.
Awesome. So I think we're about ready to seg into how and why marriage has failed as an institution. We kind of started to touch on a little bit why it's failed. And
Yeah.
I know one of the first things that we were saying before is because of expectations that are heaped onto it.
Yes. Expectations.
So marriage as an institution, okay, individuals have expectations for marriage. And so does society, people's families, everybody around them has expectations for the individual marriage. But then people have general expectations for what a marriage should be.
Yes. So those ideas again boils down to what?
If they just heap, it's like layers on layers of expectations.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if you look at it, it's always about, our childhood actually. It all boils down it comes from those childhood memories, if you look at it. So when you were, let's say when you were 3 or 5, for example, you went to school. You never ever thought that this guy is a gay or this guy is lesbian or whatever, the girl is whatever, because I'll tell you why. Because there was innocence, there was pure love. You see, now everybody want to go back, deep down, everybody want to go back to that love, that type of love. You see, but as we grew up, the hormones changed, the hormones took over, right? The genes were hyperactive then, right? And then they took over. So images started to come in, and then what happens is we need this type of solace, the security type of thing. Now see, as a kid, all of us, we observe our parents, right? Now either your father or either your mother, you may be close to both of them, or you may be close to any one of them, more close to one of them, and then what happens is we try to follow their traits unknowingly. Okay, this is applicable to people who you love and people who you hate also, right? All the patterns come into us, and then we have this expectation. Now this is a psychological study which I like to share with you. So let us say there was this guy, a small boy who was in let's say 3rd grade, okay, for example. And he used to admire, and he used to like the teacher who used to teach, let's say, any subject in the class. He liked this teacher a lot. Now that time when he's in 3rd grade, obviously he's not thinking in terms of getting married or something like that. He just liked it. He just loved whatever aspects. Now when he grows up, all right, he will unknowingly fall in love with this girl who has exact same type of nose like that teacher had. Now this guy, when he is young, now he will have no idea why he's having this type of infatuation for this girl. He may think, okay, maybe I am attracted to this girl, or maybe there is some kind of spark or something like that. But deep down, he's not aware that this is the actual reason. He used to like this teacher, and the nose of this girl is same,
yeah.
so subconsciously he's reminded of that type of comfort. But when he will actually get involved in that relationship, and maybe he may get it or he may not get it, and obviously he may not get it, so then he will be dissatisfied with that relationship. So these type of expectation that we are talking about, it's the social expectation and the other expectation that parents dump into us, that this is how the marriages should be. And then it is this other thing that I just told you about on psychological level, you see.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it's so much programming of the mind.
So much deep. That's why people, when people ask me, Jeet, if you don't mind, I'll ask you a question. I said, no, it's okay. I don't mind. I don't have a mind.
Yeah.
As simple as that, because see, when we say, okay, when we are analyzing thing, we are judging thing, it's again the programming, the same old shit, and we are looking at the person. We are not looking at the person. You are looking at the image that is created in our mind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, not the brain, the mind overall,
Yeah.
right? So is the images. So what is happening over there? It's not actually people involving into love or any relationship. It is images versus images. So images are relating to images. So the moment you relate with any image of any person, there will be no love. It will be temporary. It will be temporary, for sure.
Yeah.
And gradually, sooner or later, boom, right? And that's why people, I used to do this. I used to do counseling for a lot of, couples, who were on the verge of divorce and all of that long back when I was when I was in my teens.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I used to do that a lot, and I used to help because I always used to connect and do the psychological thing. I was in psychology since a very young age actually. So I used to do this, and I've seen many people like they file a divorce, they got married, and then they are filing a divorce. I'm like, dude,
Wow.
why you even got married to this girl or whatever, or even a
Yeah.
girl? Like, why you even got married to this guy if this was the case? And she'd be like, oh no, he's changed. He doesn't love me anymore. I'm like, what? It's just been 3 months. And how can you say that, right? But then people have expectations. Yes, people are very ambitious, and um, so let me give you another example. Like, if there is a guy and a girl, and the guy loves a girl, and let's say that it's on a spiritual connection, for example, but the girl doesn't recognize, and girl is ambitious, for example. So the girl will obviously pick up a guy which will fulfill her ambitions, right? And ditch the guy who she is you know, uh, supposedly she has to get along with because of the spiritual contract, right? But she just, doesn't pay much heed to this guy and go along with the guy which fulfills the ambitions. Do you think she'll be happy in future?
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. That's what happens, unfortunately. So expectations and ambitions, there is this, it reminds me of another funny thing. People say you should never expect. That is such bullshit.
Yeah, you're going to expect. It's not completely avoidable, no.
I so laugh at it. I'm like, really? I mean, you can't. How can you not expect? Of course, you can. You have some expectations, right? In the sense,
Yeah.
if you do something, you have some expectation for someone. At least have expectation that okay, this person will have courtesy to reply back, right? For example.
Yeah.
So when people say have no expectation, I'm like, please stop saying that. All right. You were saying you wanted to add something on this.
Yes. And like looking at large, looking at marriage, I think that like we're talking about how people need to do their inner work. Individuals need to do their inner work to make their couples work. And
Yes.
well, but also society at large has not done necessary inner work.
Absolutely.
It seems like places the world over, society either worships or exploits children. It's like one way or the other. There's no middle path. And then
yes.
like neglecting the elderly. I just see that over and over and over and over. These major problems are just sitting there. Nobody's paying attention. They'd rather watch reality shows. And even, try to fix celebrity marriages, talking about them, than work on their own. And this is just, it's a huge problem because it's just over everything else. Like, how can individuals expect to come out of this when this is what they're surrounded by? These questions are on my mind a lot. Like, that's the truth.
Yeah, see, you can also say this, that, people are often, blame governments, or people tend to blame, media and this type of, social media or reality shows and all those things. But I'm like, well, heck, you are the one who is accessing those things, right?
Yeah, it's the focus. Absolutely.
Yeah. So like people say, you know what, Jeet, I believe this is all Illuminati thing, that Illuminati is trying to rule the planet. I'm like, wait a minute, just hold on for a second. Okay. I'm like, forget about Illuminati. Why are you watching it at first place? Right?
Yeah.
Why are you giving the energy to that? If you really feel that it's some kind of control system, why are you putting yourself into it? You can
Right.
just
I believe it is, and that's why I do not own a TV. I have never owned a TV. I will not own a TV. Not in my space ever. There's a lot of things I avoid, not because I'm
Yeah.
scared, but because I don't want to deal with the BS. And
Right. Right. Well, I would say that, so so it's not just the overall the government and the other things that try to control us. I believe it's more of an individually a person must have that much of sanity where they should invest their time, right?
yeah,
Where I must invest my time or my energy. I think that much sanity everybody has and should have, right? But I have seen people wasting their time, watching some sort of TikTok videos, or all those, what do you call, what is that series, like reality shows, for example, right? um, which are not reality at all. I mean, it's all planned, that, right? I mean,
oh
none of those
yeah,
shows are real.
everything's staged.
And of course, not to forget sports. I mean,
Oh
sports and
yeah,
entertainment. Yeah, I mean, uh, I always, again, it amazes me how people fight. Literally, they fight, for their sports celebrity, right? Or
oh yeah, and
for
and
their
I grew
team.
up in Texas. I used to tell everybody that the national religion of the state of Texas was football, because
Yeah,
during that season, that is all you hear about.
yeah. You're from Houston, right? Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I've heard a lot about that. I mean, that people they just go all gaga about the football. I mean, it's all about football in that state,
Yeah.
right?
And it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game, like any game. I
Yeah.
just never understood that at all.
I mean,
Never did.
I mean, it's I think it's everywhere. Like, I mean, look, it's if you come to a country like India and England, for example, it's cricket,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's so huge. It's like literally like a war. You should see when Indians play cricket versus Pakistan, or India versus UK. I mean, England, for example, or India versus Australia, is literally like a war. So those things are there, which is making humans more vulnerable rather than happy.
Well, yeah. And at the end of the day, sports and also organized religion, the institutions,
Yes,
the churches, whatever, temples, everything, really, it's also a business. That's the
of
thing.
course,
It's a
of course.
business. So it's hard for people to pull away from that sometimes and realize, hey, okay, so this is important to me, but it's a business and I need to work on non-business right now. you know?
Yeah, but then see, you see the beauty of it. They don't have to pay taxes,
That's true. Yeah.
right? They don't have to pay taxes, and majority of the wars that are going around is in the name of religion. So
Right.
religion was supposed to make you peaceful, but in the end, we all end up fighting in the name of religion, right?
Well, in the name of the almighty dollar. that's
Yeah,
that's really what's underlying there. The
that's
wars, the
exactly,
worship
that's,
of the almighty dollar.
or the oil.
Yeah.
That's why in dark light energies we say this, that it's from microcosm to macrocosm. It's from the smallest thing, from an individual to the entire globe. I mean, I'll appreciate if you can have a look at our video which we have done for World War III. I explained it in that particular video about how it really affects, how individual ripple affects the global issues as well. So it means, irrespective of where you are, irrespective of time and space, we all are connected. So if what happens to atom A will happen to atom B, you
Yeah.
see. So
Hmm.
now you understand how those Runadu Bandhan, like I told you, that connections work, the spiritual connection work, right? And of course, it all starts with your physical body. That's why in most of the religious texts, they say that your body is a temple, you see, because it really is. I mean, of course, it is, right? It's just that we don't
Absolutely.
know how to value it or how to use it properly. You can say that.
Yeah.
But I think gradually
Definitely.
people are becoming aware. So things will change, hopefully.
I think so, and hopefully it trickles down to marriage soon.
Yeah, see, sooner or later, I think I personally believe that there will be again a time where there will be no such institute as marriage. People will be free in that sense. You can, if you like a person, you spend some time, you had some time, and then okay. And if things are not working out, then you just drift away. You don't keep grudges. You don't keep pain in your heart. It's just because it's
Yeah, and you don't go through all the paperwork and legal mess with the
oh
divorce.
oh
I'm
yes.
so over that. I'm so over that.
I mean, just think about it. If marriage as an institution will not be there in society, there'll be no lawyers. There'll be no need for psychologists. There'll be no need for this type of depression. The people who work on depression and post-marriage traumas, right? And there'll be no escort services. There'll be no prostitution also.
That's true. I mean,
I mean, no, that's a fact. I mean, if
yeah.
because because majority of the people who goes for those type of services are the people who are not happy with their married life, right? Most of them.
Well,
Yeah.
but I really feel like if marriage as an institution is no longer a thing, really, then all of these things are going to shift.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
going to shift, if not
yeah, I
disappear.
mean, see, just think about it. If everybody starts relating, if everybody start to relate with each other on spiritual level, if there is spiritual connection, there will be no such thing as even the need of prostitution, like we discussed, because everybody will, the focus will not be physical body at all, right? It will be beyond physical body, and when you are connecting on that level, those things doesn't really matter, right? The physical appearance or all those things, right?
Yeah.
So
Point.
that, with that reference, I was saying that it'll just go away
Yeah.
if everybody tunes into their spiritual connections.
Yeah.
So there is an if in that. There is conditions for the unconditional love, right? Yeah. So
And really
let's.
quickly too, like while we were talking about how I was saying how, okay, religion and all is a business, sports are a business, marriage has been a business. Like you're saying, shoot, all these people making money off of it.
Yeah.
So it's benefited society to keep it because people keep raking it in. But when it's no longer necessary, those people have to find something else to do. But maybe by then the monetary system will no longer be in place. We'll have barter again. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, see, that is something which we call as golden age, right? End of the day, we all, or what do you call it, age of Aquarius, or in India they call it Satyug. I mean, it's the paradise that everybody dreams of nowadays, especially the people who are into spirituality. They dream of this age where where everybody will be happy. But then the thing is that it all boils down to our own system. We need to know who we really are in real sense, and only then, in India there is a saying: if you don't know the divine within you, you will never be able to discover divine outside. So if I don't know the divinity within, how can I even appreciate or acknowledge divinity in you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts from us, It's all starts from us. Yeah. But yeah, I think sooner or later we'll have those type of things very soon, I guess.
And on that note of people not knowing the divinity within, I think that's where the toxic marriages start to happen. I think it's time for us to take that
Yes. Yes.
that route right now. So absolutely, that's what I feel. Speaking from experience, once again,
Yes, please.
I had extremely, extremely low self-worth, self-esteem, and I wasn't fully aware of that when I got into this marriage that I was in. And it was incredibly toxic for a number of reasons. Both of us had some trauma. Her trauma was worse. Yes, this was a female. Her trauma was worse than mine. But neither of us had done any kind of inner work. We weren't even aware that we needed to. And moreover, I think the biggest problem in my case was this innate need to self-punish. It went really deep, really deep. And it goes way, way, way back. I'm convinced it goes back several lifetimes for me, at least. because I still struggle with it, even though I'm in a healthy situation now. It's still a struggle sometimes, and I have to call myself out. But I look around me, and it's not like I haven't seen this before. I've totally seen it in other people, and it was easier to recognize. In myself, it was harder to recognize. So this innate need to self-punish, that's coming from the low self-worth, self-respect. It's coming from a lot of things. But it also comes from the familiarity. Again, like what you were saying, picking those familiar patterns from childhood, things that I saw early on. It really goes deep. And I think that's where a lot of toxicity does come from.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, knowingly, unknowingly, kids, they adopt the traits from their parents. Most of the time, majority of the time, it's from the parents, you see. And other time it is, from the people who they were surrounded, like, let's say, for example, grandfather, grandmother, or uncle and aunt, or whatever, all those family system. So all those things affect them. But narcissism as a trait also is started by, by parents who pamper their kids a lot, in the sense, they it's like, it will again boil down to the question, why do anybody want to have a child? Because if when they have babies, it's more like their future investment. It's more like their some kind of object, a display piece.
Ego stroking in a human form.
Yes, absolutely.
Really sad.
I cannot put it in best way in that sense. I mean, you just put it in best way. So it is about ego. It's about ego. And narcissism, as you know, is all about ego, right? It's all about ego, right? It's all about me. Oh, look at me, I'm the self-centered cynosure of whatever. So that's what people are all about, right? Especially narcissists. It's all about me, my rules, my values, and my thinking, my way, and only my way, no highway, right? So that's the thing. But I've been working with a lot of clients, who have faced the backlash, while they were in relationship with their spouses, or even parents who were narcissists, right? And that type of trauma is very miserable. I mean, it's very depressive also, right? But then what I understand is that especially when it comes to narcissist spouses, there's a lot of manipulation. They're very, very good in manipulation, right?
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
they know your weak points. So they know all your weak points. So they know where to hit the nail. Basically.
You just described my whole marriage, and you didn't even know me when I was in the situation.
Well, that is how we connect, right?
Yeah.
I just explained you about quantum entanglement, right?
Yes, that's exactly like.
Well, honestly speaking, I just downloaded some information for you.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
So, but yeah, seriously, I mean, I have seen many of my friends, going through marriages where they involve their spouses, then they involve their in-laws. Most of the marriages, I mean, in culture like Indian culture, for example, or Asian culture, like even Chinese have the same problem, or even Japanese and Indonesian people have similar problems. It's like when they get married, and then there is then there is their in-laws. So the girl has to fulfill the expectation of their in-laws, because this guy who she got married to is obviously mama's boy, who's been all these years he was with, praised by his mom, and pampered, right? Because her mom loves her so much, and now all of a sudden the love has to be diverted to her. So she has to do all the attempts, all the things, which has to be great than her mom. But then obviously it's like a carrot. So throughout her life, she tries her best to become better than his mom. And in the end, how can you be better in that sense? I mean, just think about it. You are you, right?
Yeah.
So a person should admire and accept you as you are. But that is where the whole goof up starts, because most of the people, most of the human beings are in the becoming mode. That's why at Darklight we have this tagline, from becoming mode to being mode. You know, we focus on being rather than becoming. We intend to make people aware of their being mode rather than becoming mode. So
True.
so narcissist person, of course, the demands will be there on both ways. And somewhere I believe everybody is narcissist in today's world, somewhere, because everybody wants to be on the superior side, right, on the ruling side.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But
This dynamic that I see in all kinds of relationships, but especially marriage, the whole, you have the one hand, you have your narcissist, and then you have your empath. And those two always get together in some form.
absolutely.
And it
And
just
I
drags
hate it.
on.
I just hate it. When they say opposite attracts, I'm like, really? I mean, dude, we are not magnets. Okay,
Yeah.
this is the other side of the so-called new age spirituality, that they have taught us. The book of so
Yeah.
it has taught everyone that, okay, we all are like magnets. Dude, you're not magnet in real sense. It's not that opposite attracts means you attract such people. So if you are empath, it doesn't mean that you will attract narcissist person ideally. But actually, in reality, many people do have that type of relationship. So one person is an empath and the other person is normally a narcissist, right? And the problem starts when the empath starts believing in all this toxic positivity. Okay.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah. So a narcissist are, they know that, okay, you know what, this person is an empath, right? So no matter how much shit I do on this person, he or she will always be forgiving me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like me going to church. I know that if I confess, all my sins will go away. I mean, hypothetically.
Yeah, that's a really interesting connection there. But yeah, I totally agree. I come from a Catholic background, and that's what we were taught from.
Yeah, I mean,
day
it
one.
doesn't matter what you do. You just kill someone or whatever you want to do, you do, and then just
And
confess.
Catholics even joke about that. They say, "Oh, I went to confession. Now I can go sin again." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Like, real funny. So yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to say about toxic marriages or?
So about toxic marriage, like we were discussing, so it really jeopardizes the relationship, of course, for sure. But not only it ruins the marriage, it ruins the consciousness of a person. It drains out each other, right? I mean, people use each other to such a level that they literally feed on them. They start feeding on them like some sort of psychic vampire, who feeds on you,
Oh yeah.
right? Right. So they literally start feeding on you. And then the other thing is that even if you plan to you know become separate, for example, from the relationship, what happens then? Then what will happen is, uh, the person who is narcissist, he or she will try to put all the blame on you, right?
Oh
So
yes.
in the end, there is this constant struggle, and then they will make you feel guilty about it. So guilt is something which I always speak to all the empaths, because all the empaths go through that. So guilt is a shit. Guilt is deep shit. Okay, all right. That is something which I believe is created psychologically to drain your energy. Guilt factor. I mean, even religions use that, right? Any religion who wants to create supremacy, they will put guilt in you or fear in you, right? Spirituality,
Mhm.
on the other hand, is all about liberation. So when I realize that I am not my body, and in awareness, not just hypothetically or not just as a concept, but as an awareness, if I realize that this is just my body, I am here in this temple to use it properly, and then when I go beyond, when I transcend the mind and thoughts, when all the actions are taken from the heart, I don't think there'll be any scope for guilt or fear, because you just do
Yeah.
things, you respond to situations. So when you respond, you will never go in guilt. You know why guilt occurs, Mary?
Why?
Any idea? I mean, I'm just asking. Any idea?
Oh, like how guilt gets in, like
No. What do you think the psychology of guilt is, or the spiritual reason why guilt happens or occurs?
the spiritual reason, not the religious reason. So the spiritual
Yeah.
reason for guilt probably, that's a good question. Because I really do think of it as being instilled by, society. Guilt isn't something, I don't think of it as something being organic to a person.
Hmm.
Um,
So guilt, I'll tell you what, guilt happens when, like we were talking about expectations, right? Similarly, we have certain images. Like I told you, it's not about person relating with a person, it's images that start relating with the other images, right? So before you even get married, you have a particular image that my husband will be like this, or my wife will be like this, of this nature. She'll be this, she'll be that, whatever. And whoever fits into that image, you get married to that person, and we call it love. And then what happens is, when those images doesn't fit, there is combustion, right? Then there is dryness in relationship. And then what happens, gradually, there'll be, people will say that, my thought process are different. Her thought level is different, my thought. It's never about thought level. Okay. If you really love somebody, if you really love a person, thoughts will not even matter. How will thoughts matter?
yeah.
Right? Because you connecting with the soul. How in the world will thought matter? So it is just an excuse that people give. So guilt comes in when I have an image created in front of somebody to people please, to please that person, right? So as a spouse, you try a lot to please your better half, and then it turned out that your better half is a narcissist. So now you don't want to keep that image, right? And when that image is distorted or ruined, you feel guilty, because you think that, subconsciously you feel that that was not true. You know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
so-called love itself was not true.
I see. Yes.
I know
Yes.
many couples going through that. They discover, either one of them or both of them discover that, the so-called love that they have is not actually love. you know because they just got married and whatever, and now that they have kids, so now because she's taking care of my child, she's beautiful. She's I love her because whatever reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not actually spiritual connection. It's not about, forget about spirituality, it's not actually love. That's all I'm saying. you know
Right. So indeed, that guilt is indeed not organic. It grew. It happened. It was not organic to the person. And
Absolutely.
it would do for the people to realize when they start waking up, to realize, hey, this feeling I have is not organic, so I'm going to let it go. Like,
But letting go is again a difficult part, right? For most
easier
of the
said
people.
than done. It took me about 4 years.
And you know what? I like to add on to this topic. People often say that, hey, you know what? You should just move on. Let's just move on. People say that, right? People,
Oh no, but you're right. People say that, but then if they do move on suddenly, without really working on anything, they're just going to repeat it with the next person that comes along.
exactly. And it's not just that. I'll tell you what. In reality, you can never move on. And I'll tell you why. You remember the thing that we just started off when we started off the video? I told you about the memories that your physical body has, right? So whatever time and whatever relationship you spend with that person, right? Even the smallest touch, or even the hug or anything, all those memories will still be there. No matter how much you want to deny it, or no matter how much you want to move on, you can never move on. You see, because
True.
it's the true. It's the thing that happened with you, and that was true at that point of time, right? Now, when people say about moving on, they try to psychologically jump over, it's like jumping from one fence to the other. They want to just, they think it's like, okay, just move on. But ideally, those things do get accumulated in your subconscious mind. And like you correctly said, if it's not worked upon, it gets repeated.
Yeah.
Right. But then again, the thing is, it's not just about repetition. It's also about, uh, you know, um, it's also about experience. You see, so whatever positive, negative experience you've been through, end of the day, it all boils down on how you perceive. You see, and
Right.
that is the real thing. Perception matters, and the reason behind that is, this is something which is even neurobiologists agree nowadays, that the moment your perception changes, your wiring of the brain changes.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
And
so
that's why cognitive behavior therapy works so well, because you change that behavior, you change your perception, and then you change
yes,
rewire your brain.
exactly. But then again, most people just do it psychologically. That is where they get stuck up. You see,
Yeah.
so I'll just tell you, okay, what, Mary, just close your eyes, take a deep breath, visualize the golden light coming in. It's all the mind, because you're because you're visualizing using the mind, right? The moment I say
Mm-hmm.
you visualize golden light, so your mind uses the reference of golden color and the reference of light and certain qualities that you think that light has. So you think that, okay, those qualities are coming into you. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
so that
What a
that's
setup. Like,
but it's not at all, it's not spiritual, to be very honest, because spirituality is to go beyond the mind, right? So for to go beyond the mind, you must first know what is mind, right? End of the day.
yeah.
So that's what it is. So coming back to what we were discussing about toxic spouses, most of those people are deeply rooted into the mind, you know and that's why they have a lot of fear, they have a lot of insecurity. And most of the toxic couple or spouses, they are not happy with the way they are, you see. so
Yeah.
I'm talking specifically about physical looks also. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are not happy by the way they look. They don't accept the way they are, you know and I don't blame them. I'm not saying that it's bad or something. It's just that how the society is, because so as society, we have defined beauty in particular manner, right? As a society, we have defined what is hot and what is not. I mean, I really, it amazes me. It just amuses me that when somebody says, oh, she's hot, I'm like, really? I mean, what's really hot and
Yeah.
what's hot? I mean, come on, dude. you know so it's just more of objectification of the physical appearances, and those things, when it's not fulfilled, and then there is expectation from your own self, and that's why you're not happy with your own self. That's why most of those people, they become narcissist. You
Yeah,
see, it's a
definitely. And again, you're describing my ex perfectly. And somebody who was very unhappy with himself, indeed. And yeah, and then she did pick out my insecurities and try to, make me
oh
move in that direction with her.
yeah.
And if I had stayed any longer, I'm sure I would have.
Oh gosh, I'm happy that you moved on in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, there was no fixing. It was just on so many levels, it was toxic. And
Yeah, I mean, it's always advisable to cut off such a relationship. Here we don't need to include the, oh, I'm so forgiving, oh, I have a big heart. No, you don't have to have a big heart. You need to just cut off such a relationship. Okay, I mean, stop fooling yourself that I am so filled with joy and I'm so forgiving. Okay, you are. All right.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that you can fix everybody. That's another problem. Another
Absolutely.
problem I see. Oh, I'm going to fix this person. Never works. Never works
Never.
when you go with that attitude. No.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are not here on this planet to fix anybody at first place, right? You fix yourself. That itself is a big miracle, if you can.
Yeah.
I see many people, I mean, obviously everybody inherits the patterns from their parents and so many other beings around, right? And they are not even aware that they are doing that. And people often ask me, Jeet, how can I increase my consciousness? I'm like, you don't need to increase any consciousness. Consciousness is there the way it is supposed to be. All you need to increase is the awareness of it. You are not aware right now what are the traits or the personalities of your parents which are ruling over you, right? And then comes the values, the morals, and all those emotional shit.
Yes.
Narcissist, narcissism or toxic person, it's not just about the spouse. It could be your friends, it could be your colleagues, it could be an office environment. I have seen many people who have worked in certain offices and they just their physical health deteriorates because they can't speak up to their bosses, and the bosses are mostly narcissists.
Oh yeah.
So there is supposed to be a balance that you have to maintain, and if you are not able to do it, just quit. Just figure out some other way. But you should not allow those things to temper your health, your physical health, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So narcissists are people who often just extract happiness from you, right? So there are two ways. Either you just quit, I mean you just leave those people, just disconnect from them, which normally works. There is one way, the one other way which is very less used because it may drain you, and I don't recommend that. But the other way is to fight back, to rebel with those narcissists. Why it will not work is because no matter what you do, they are never going to accept that it is their fault.
Exactly.
So even if you give them proof, if you give them the truth, whatever, they'll be like, it's not my fault, it's you. It's you who is perceiving it wrong way. They'll put it all the blame on you. So
Yeah, and that's exactly how it was with an empath friend of mine who's been well, she's been the friend of an individual for 20 years, but that individual has never been her friend, and she came to realize that after 20. Well, she realized it earlier, but that's just how it is with a narcissist. And
yeah.
But she's one to fight back. Absolutely, she did her share of that. But when she realized this just isn't going anywhere, that was it.
Well,
mind you, this is probably the wisest individual I have ever met by far, one of the most spiritual. But it just goes to show, when you're an empath, narcissists will find you. They will find you.
Absolutely.
But it's how you react.
But there is this other flip side of it also. Many narcissists, okay, this is the other flip side of it. Many narcissists, okay, who are narcissist in nature, they assume that they are not narcissists. It's the other people who are toxic.
Of course. Yeah, it's always the other people. It's never my fault. Yeah.
It's the other people. It's my toxic family. It's my toxic office, But they don't want to see what's actually. There is a possibility that, you yourself are toxic. I was just interacting with a person, and she was telling me that, Jeet, I finally cut off with this guy. She was in relationship with a person, and she was telling me that I just finally dumped this guy. I just cut off with him. He was so narcissist. He used to do this, he used to do that, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. So I was just listening to her. And then she's like, I just can't help it. I can't change him. I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you trying to change him again? Hold on a second. So she's like, no, I mean, I didn't like this factor about him. I didn't like that factor about him. I'm like, okay, so you were trying to control him.
Oh yeah.
You see?
You nailed it.
and he was the one who is narcissist. I mean,
yes.
It's so funny, how and when, how can you, I mean, I'm like just speechless. I'm like, girl, you know what? You move on.
What else can you say? I mean,
I'm like, please move on. Please, for God's sake, just move on. Okay.
Probably doing him a favor.
But it's so funny, I have this friend I just recently met on Instagram. She's also like, gee, you know what? I feel like I am kind of a princess of spiritual realm. I'm like, okay, all right, tell me more about it. And she'll be like, no, I'm not saying, I'm saying this from experience. I'm like, okay, what sort of experience is that? And she's literally telling me the story, all right? She's like, I was surrounded by toxic people. I live in toxic environment. My parents were toxic. I said, yeah, that is a possibility. I mean, everybody has a narcissist parents. Who doesn't? Most of them have. So she's like, no, I mean, they drained, and they drained me, and then they tried to take advantage of me, and everybody took advantage of me. But then I became self-aware. I discovered the real me, who is the princess of spiritual realm, and I took the sword and just cut them off. I'm like, what? And she's like,
Yeah.
I did all this in meditation. I'm like, really? I mean, you did all this in meditation? I'm like,
I thought meditation was just being.
I'm like, okay, hold on. What type of meditation is that? Can you please elaborate? She'll be like, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to sit down, calm yourself, and then take a deep breath, and then visualize. I'm like, okay, who is the visualizer? She'll be like, I never thought about it. Who's the visualizer?
Oops. Fallacy number one.
I'm like, okay, so there is a visualizer who's taking the sword and cutting this off. And then you assume that they are narcissists. They are the toxic people. And this is what you call as meditation. I mean, come on, give me a break. I'm like, visualizer, really? You visualize such things? And that's what people do, people hallucinate. People want to see what they really want to see. And then comes visualization. And then comes manifestation.
That sounds like a fantasy, not a visualization. It sounds like a pure fantasy.
That is a secret. It's a secret, all right?
Well, but it's important to know the difference between fantasy and...
But that's what people do, right?
Yep, it is.
All right. So let's
I did it before I figured out it wasn't working. So I think we've kind of covered some of the solution for a toxic relationship, but I'm sure there's some more we can say. Like one thing that I found helps me even now in a healthy relationship, when there's something going on that's amiss, I think about it like, okay, if I saw two of my friends going through this, what would I advise them to do? That's pretty basic stuff. Just like, what if this were not me, if this were happening to someone else, would I consider it healthy, unhealthy, and why? But especially my own behavior. I think about my own behavior. If I saw that in another person in a relationship, like, okay, so this isn't working. Like, I would see it better if I'm not thinking about it as being me.
Yeah.
It's like stepping outside yourself to fix some of these things. But that's hard. I mean, it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. But then the thing is that, see, most people often misunderstand the acceptance part. They think that accepting something means to tolerate whatever the other person do. That is not acceptance.
Yeah.
Right? But people assume that is acceptance. So they'll be like, oh, I am accepting my wife the way she is. But indirectly what they are doing is they are tolerating whatever the nuisance the wife is or anybody is creating in that sense, right? So I know a friend of mine, she had this issues with her in-laws, for example, and she was never like that before marriage. So she was a very different person. But post marriage, she because she wanted to blend into the family, she compromised a lot of things and adjustments in the name of love, of course. And then Then the in-laws come in, so there's a lot of sacrifices and adjustments, etc. And then suppression of emotions, right? Which of course will affect your health, right?
Yes.
So I told her that, why are you doing all this thing? It's just, there's no need. And she's like, no, but I learned to accept the way they are. I learned to accept the people, family people, the way they are. I'm like, no, that is not acceptance, my friend. It's it's tolerating somebody's nuisance in the name of acceptance. So you're fooling yourself over there, right? You're fooling yourself. You think that you are doing all of this in the name of love, to gain love. But you are actually trying to do this because you're trying to please others. You're trying to people please, right? And people pleasing never works, right?
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Because you'll never make them happy.
Yeah. I mean, anytime personally, I will anytime prefer to be alone with my own company. I'm very happy with my own self in that sense. But why would people need people? Why do people need to please other people? Is again, there is a psychology and there is a spiritual aspect also in this. Is because the mind is tuned that way. We want validation of others. We are so much dependent on others, right? We want validation, continuous validation. We are craving for validations rather, right? We are craving for their approval, and we are craving to get significance from them,
Yep.
and we assume all of that as love, and we call it that we love, and we say that we love you. We say that I love you so much. Or when we say I love you so much, what it really means is I'm begging for significance so much, right?
Hmm.
I'm begging for
So
your
often.
approval so much, and then we say I love you so much. That's what it is. So yeah, I think that sums it up for marriage. I think enough for marriage now, right?